All right, so let's start off just talking about the event tonight and the play, this perfect, wonderful Pete Gurney play. Can you guys tell me what drew you to choosing Love Letters to perform?
Well, something like, I'm trying to remember how long ago it was, 25 years ago, maybe a little longer. In the early 90s, I did a summer tour of this play with Bonnie Franklin. Yeah. And I fell in love with the play. And she was a wonderful actress to work with, and loved doing it. As a matter of fact, our opening night was actually the second performance at the, thank you. Was the second performance after the opening night. The opening night, which was at the Buffalo Arena Theater, a theater I understand no longer exists, in Buffalo, New York. And the opening night was not Bunny and I, but was Pete Gurney. And I can't remember who the very famous actress was that she did it. And it was a wonderful thing. Boy, did he understand this play.
And Buffalo was his hometown.
Buffalo was his hometown. So I've loved this piece for a long time. And then, I don't know, some time ago, 10 or 12 years ago, that Maya did do one performance of this. And this piece particularly means a lot to me, and I think does to Maya, because this is the love of my life, and to do this play with the love of your life, it doesn't get better.
He's a good man, isn't he? You picked very well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love Pete Gurney's play, A.R. Gurney. His plays are so beautiful, and what better play for two people to do, and we don't have to memorize it. So,
and I think it has a special significance for you to do here, yes?
Well, to do it here, because Keir and I met upstairs at Symphony Space doing selected shorts in May of 1995. Yes, so this place is very special to us.
I got a call from Isaiah Schaefer out of the blue in 1995 in the spring sometime. I frankly, I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I didn't know who he was, and I never heard of Selected Shorts, but it sounded like a wonderful thing. So I arrived, and here was this lovely lady and Marion Seldes. So we were the three readers, and
what a great group of people.
Yeah, you want to tell the rest of the story?
No, that's okay. We can go on.
But just to follow up on that story, continuing this saga, they'll both be on that stage again tomorrow night.
Yes. I am hosting Bloomsday. I've done it many, many years as a reader, but now that we've lost our dear, beloved Isaiah, they have rotating hosts, and this year I have been honored with being the presenter. So tomorrow night I am hosting Bloomsday, so come on upstairs tomorrow night.
And I'll be one of the readers also.
Yeah.
Yep.
They just can't get enough of the space. And I have to say, just from this is our Articulate's first time working at Symphony Space, but it sure won't be our last, because it's just such a wonderful group of people and such a wonderful house. It's just got a really good vibe here. And we'll be back. So it's good all the way around. Do we have any questions out there? Yes, sir?
Yeah, I was wondering, for each of you, what, with regard to this play, what did you feel was very much the same about your personal upbringings, and what did you feel was like amazingly different?
I didn't have that much money. We didn't have an elevator in our house. Nobody brought me lemonade and cookies on a silver tray. No.
But everything else perfectly the same.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's just, but his writing is just, it's so clear and precise. He presents these characters, and you know exactly, just his description, you know who he's writing about. So it's...
Well, my background wasn't anything like...
You did go to a prep school, though.
Well, yeah, but what happened was... My parents ran a bookshop in Greenwich Village, which they opened in 1939 and had till about 1965. And that's so I was brought up in the village, but you don't make a lot of money in the bookstore. And I did go to a prep school, but that was because my father had a rich brother. And this wonderful rich brother paid for my tuition to go to this wonderful coeducational Quaker boarding school in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, called the George School, which is where the germ was dropped in terms of my becoming an actor, actually. Yeah. But no, my background in other ways, quite
And we
different.
never wrote letters to each other. No.
Is there any similarities that you found with these characters?
Similarities with our life?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah? No.
I'm not an alcoholic. In fact, I don't drink very much at all. I'm not an artist.
You're not a
although I
wild
did-
and crazy person?
Actually, I'm not. No. My friends
Well, you
would
did an
actually, I have a
excellent
bunch of friends
performance.
out there, and they will confirm I'm not a wild or crazy person, am I? My friends? No? Yes? No? Please confirm.
We won't say anything.
Okay.
Do you rehearse together? And if so, what is that like?
It's great. Oh, well, I think it's great. I don't know.
Yeah, well, fortunately, through the years, we've been together. This is our 20th year as a couple, and we've been fortunate to work quite often. On stage, we've done, I don't know,
Quite a few. More
five
than-
or six plays together.
Yeah, 2 weeks after we got married, we were doing a summer tour of Death Trap where he killed me off every night.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. And we did a film together, and
Yeah, and we did a 4-month tour of Death Trap, a different production of Death Trap in Ireland. That was fun. We've done, his favorite role is Big Daddy in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and I played Big Mama. So that was,
Yeah,
we enjoy working together.
Yeah.
And at home, it's great. He is the best, I don't know what, prompter. When I have to learn a role, he is fabulous. He has helped me so much. I did 4 plays last year, and one of them that I got the Connecticut Critics Circle Award for, I got a call on a Friday afternoon saying, are you available to go up to Hartford to do Cloud 9? Actually, my agent said, do you remember Cloud 9? I said, yeah, I auditioned for it. I didn't get it. He said, well, the actress who got the part just 3 hours before the first preview, tripped backstage and fractured her elbow, and she's going into surgery. So I learned the part in 3 days, and I couldn't have done it without Keir. So
I'm going to follow up on that question because, as many of you may already know, this is the 50th anniversary of 2001: A Space Odyssey. So I know that these two have been traipsing around the globe celebrating this fact while rehearsing this play. So what has been like
we took the
most
script with us to Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah. So what was the most fun place that you traded lines back and forth? On the plane or in a beautiful hotel or?
We stayed in some pretty fancy hotels. The first week was in Madrid. Keir did the voiceover on a documentary.
it was an animated documentary.
Turner
Of an-
Classic Movies is totally different in Europe. They have a whole European division, and they called Keir last year and asked him to voice Stanley Kubrick in an animated documentary of the famous 1968 Playboy interview. And they invited us over. It's beautiful. I don't know. I think the reception was so good. We went over in May for the premiere of that. And the reception was so positive that I think it's going to be shown here. Normally they don't cross over, but it was brilliant. And so then we went to Madrid for a week for that, and that was fun.
Oh, I bet. I can only imagine, but I would like to. Okay, yes, sir. Over here. Yes.
I recently read this play. I've never seen it before, and I brought it to an acting teacher who I respect very much, named Phil Bora, and some other people at a senior center, and tried to get them to do it. And Phil's response to this was, actors love this play because they don't have to memorize the lines. And you said something about that. It seemed to me if you rehearsed, you sort of have to memorize the lines, but I'd like you to talk about that for a minute.
Well, you have to familiarize yourself with the lines. It doesn't require memorization, and I can't say that that's the real reason why I love this play, because I don't have to remember. It is an extra nice thing about it, but I just love the writing is so wonderful, And I
And
just...
it's a beautiful love story.
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah. It's a wonderful opportunity to express the feelings that Pete Gurney wrote so beautifully.
Is this based on a true story, this play?
Well,
You know what? I have no idea. I should have asked him that before he passed away. I don't know. Did you ever ask him?
No, I didn't. I knew Pete, not when I first did it, but he
don't
lived.
know.
We live in Connecticut, and he also lived not too far away in Connecticut. So I got to know him. A lovely, lovely sweetheart of a man, but never occurred to me to ask him about that. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
already had one, Michael. I'll come
Yeah.
back to you. Okay. Anybody else?
Okay. One of the stunning things about, I'll speak to each of you individually, really Maya, the way you transform. I've seen you after when you were doing that production with the little boy, and you came back from that production, and you were just all the energy of a little boy and the glow. And I asked you about it, and you said that it was amazing because you were able to do these things physically, which if you looked at from the outside looking in, it's like, ow, you know, really transformed. And this play is a wonderful window on watching you do what you do, which is transform from each age into the next.
Well, thank you.
Do it so seamlessly. And there are actors who are the actor doing it this way, the actor doing it that way, doing this character. We all know that. You are the character.
Well, thank you. That's what I'm trying to do. And I love, as in Cloud 9, I played a 10-year-old boy in the first act and a 65-year-old woman in the second act, which it was thrilling to do that. But I have to tell you, the 10-year-old boy, I had so much energy on stage, and I was doing these movements that I can't do. I don't know where that came from, but they put a chair for me backstage because I would make an entrance, I run around, and then I come back off stage and I sit on the chair going, yeah. But I also just did a play last fall at the Hartford stage, a wonderful play called Seder, where I had to go from a 65-year-old woman to a 19-year-old, her 19-year-old self in a light change, and also I did something with my hair. I mean, I kind of snuck out 2 hairpins, and in the light change when nobody's watching, I pull out the other 2 and jump up, and at that point my hair was about 6 inches. I let it grow a lot longer. But it's exciting. It's a very exciting challenge because your energy changes as you age. And if you look at kids, you know, teenagers, they have, I don't even know how to describe it, but it feels different. And there's a light and there's a lightness that as we get older, but we gain wisdom because they're more scattered. Their stuff is all over the place. And even though it's more contained as we grow older, I think the wisdom that comes with it, I don't know. I don't know if you wanted to trade off, that, you know, people are always asking if you could go back to any age, what would you? I don't know, because I think I'd take my age now with all the aches and pains.
Absolutely. I just want to second what you said, just watching the both of you, but watching you morph through those ages in not even a blink of an eye, not even a light change, just going from the emotional stages and the maturity levels was just amazing. I mean, it's amazing that how he wrote that in, but it's also amazing when you have actors of such caliber really living those characters. It's just impressive, totally impressive to me.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Frank?
And just to add on, is there, how do I put it? You know what it's like to be 25. Is there an ideal age cutoff limit to do this play? Can a 22-year-old do this play?
I think it would be more difficult. He'd really have to maybe a brilliant young actor could use his imagination. I mean, I've seen young actors give brilliant performances, but in general, I would think that it would be more difficult until you're maybe hit or approaching 40.
Yeah, I
maybe?
agree.
40?
But it's the same problem. Remember, I think, I can't really see you, but I think you're probably old enough to remember Merrily We Roll Along. And it was Sondheim's musical that failed. It was the only one, really, that was a flop. And it was all of these kids, early 20s, playing people in their middle age, regressing. Remember it? And it just didn't quite work. But I think somewhere I read that there was a production somewhere recently where they found some kids who could do it. And I don't know whether you just have to find those people who are really old souls who can empathize with older people enough to know kind of what we go through in a full life, to be able to carry we become complete as we grow older. You get bumps and scratches, but those are the things that make us who we are and that give us a lot more perspective. And I don't think a lot of kids have perspective, but I'm certain that there are some young actors who are brilliant who probably could pull this off.
I kind of wonder too about the as time goes on, how many people forget about that time frame that these characters live in as well, that frame of reference. I mean, just an easy example is the litany of the things that you have in class, all the education that was gone through. And I thought, okay, I sort of remember.
You didn't have Latin and
I
Greek?
didn't have exactly.
Oh.
I mean, it's like
I know
the gentleman's C kind of thing, and you find out that what it took to get a C back then was a lot more difficult than getting a C these days. There's a lot of changes in society that I think will make this play a little bit more difficult.
And the next generation isn't going to understand why you have a phone in the hall. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's that about?
Okay.
Well, to that extent then, going forward, productions of this play, do you feel that they're always period pieces, considering how little we write nowadays, or is there a way to contemporize that?
I missed that.
I think you may have a great young playwright who comes along and writes love letters, except how can it be love letters? It's going to be love texts.
So that's what I mean, is it stuck being a period piece?
This is going to be a period piece, yes.
He was asking if the play would turn into a period piece as time marched on.
Yeah, it has to.
A lot of talks about the war and stuff, but is there a way to make it 2018, or is that just not?
In 50 years, it's not Shakespeare. People are not going to look back and, they may not even know where half the stuff we're talking about. The life is changing fast. I don't know. What do you think?
It's nostalgic to see people get into writing. I can't even write 5 sentences now without my hand hurting. Today's technology is maybe taking us a little.
Well, that's a shame.
I know. That's why it's nice to see this. It's nice to be back in that time when people did focus on I think what it says in the play, would you give me the best part of yourself?
Yeah, and also, the nostalgia of it, of a love that that is not consummated for like 40 years.
Instagram each other or Facebook each other's private parts, and you would know everything.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have waited, So.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to ask Keir a question about, it's the 50th anniversary of 2001, and you've been touring around talking about it probably for a while. But I would just love to know, how was that experience? What was it like? How did you get that role? I know that the film, they didn't even know it was going to be anything, and it turned into this huge, huge event. So I would just love to know what your experience was.
Well, making it was an extraordinary experience, mainly because of being in the presence of Stanley Kubrick, who you just were aware that you were in the presence of genius. I mean, the man was extraordinary, and I loved every minute of it. I mean, some people have heard rumors that he was difficult or that he had a million takes. I never found him difficult. He never raised his voice. He was an interesting man. He was open to suggestions. Didn't necessarily mean he'd use them, but he was open to them. He never made you feel foolish for suggesting anything. And it really has had an extraordinary history, because it initially, when it was first released, the world premiere, there were 3 major world premieres. First was in Washington, the second was here in New York, and the third was in Los Angeles. And, well, New York is an example. 250 people walked out of the film. It got more than half the reviews were terrible, really terrible, terrible reviews. And MGM was really worried about this film for a little while, until relatively quickly, it took a couple of months, but suddenly the young generation were lining up, and it ended up being their top grossing film of the year. And MGM actually kind of figured that that this young generation might have been smoking funny cigarettes, and so they came out with a new poster for the film 2 months into its release, and the poster said, "2001, A Space Odyssey, the ultimate trip," and that was the poster. But working on it was extraordinary.
How you got the part?
Oh, I was filming a film with Laurence Olivier and Carol Lindley called Bunny Lake is Missing, and I came home after shooting one day, and my wife said, "Your agent called. Call your agent." So I called my agent the next morning, and he said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "No, why?" He said, "You better sit down." I said, "Why?" "You've just been offered the lead in Stanley Kubrick's next film." I had no idea I was being considered. None whatsoever. I never met him. I didn't meet anybody connected with the film. And but interestingly enough, when they sent me the script, and how do you show with the print on the printed page what ultimately that film was? You know, it was such a visual experience. But when I started reading it, something was vaguely familiar, and that was the fact that it was based on a short story that Arthur C. Clarke wrote, and I think was published in 1959 or 1950, and it was called The Sentinel. And all it dealt with the finding of an object. It wasn't called a monolith, but finding an object on the moon that some astronauts find, and then try to figure out who was it, or what alien species passed by the Earth millions of years ago, and that our presence set it off, which became a cosmic alarm clock. That was all it was to the story, and that intrigued Stanley, and that was that short story, which I had read as a kid because I was a science fiction fan in my teenage years, and I had read that short story in a collection. So yeah, it was something.
I'm going to give myself the last question here, because I know I'm getting the wave from Brittany. And because it's a benefit tonight, I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity, because you two have been such wonderful supporters of Articulate and theater as a whole in this wonderful city, especially what I call independent theater. You know, there's I went to the dentist once, and he said, I said, "Do you see much theater?" He said, "No, it's too expensive." And I said, "Well, just don't go to the Broadway stuff. There's other shows that aren't that expensive." He goes, "Well, there's not really a lot of other theater, is there, besides Broadway?" And I was like, there is so much more. And the fact that you guys support it so much is just really encouraging to me. So maybe if you could just take a moment to help share with the audience why we should continue to support independent theater in the city.
Well, I think we should support theater, live theater, anywhere, anytime, because I think that a shared experience with an audience, I don't know, there's something about the vibes, the vibrations, the energy that is created in a group that is laughing and crying together. I think theater is our humanity. You know, theater started with the Greeks, probably before that, but that's all we know about. And I think the arts in general make people more compassionate when you can sit in the presence of someone who is sharing with you a life that you may not be familiar with, or you may resonate with them because it's so similar to your experience, or it may be a foreign experience, but in so doing, it's opening your mind to something else. And I just think live theater does that even more because you are part of it. The audience is the last character in a play, and yes, Broadway is exciting and wonderful, but you're not close up unless you can buy a $500 ticket. So I think there's something extraordinary about experiencing this with a group of people that is only for this moment, this night, and this will never happen again. This moment that you are here sharing with us, being in our presence, and feeling you, because we do feel you. This is a shared exchange of energy, but once you go home, this is just a memory, and this is a wonderful memory, or sometimes whatever you take home, this is added to your
Zeitgeist.
yeah, it's added to your book of your life. So
She's Maya said it better than I could, but I can only tell you that the most heightened experiences that I've ever had as an actor, and I've been a professional actor for over 60 years, and it's been live theater. I mean, I've had wonderful experiences in film, but no film can quite match the personal experience of live theater. And not just Broadway. I've done Broadway, but it's regional theaters. In fact, maybe the most heightened experience I've had as an actor has been in regional theater, doing a play. I won't go into what it was, but and off Broadway, same thing. I've had some of the most heightened experiences of my life.
we had a great time doing a production of Tennessee Williams'
Orpheus Descending.
Orpheus Descending, down in a church on
Christopher Street.
It was just an extraordinary thing. No set, just fabulous actors and fabulous words.
Yep.
You don't
And the
need a
audience
lot.
is so important. When I went backstage during the intermission, the first thing Keir said to me was, "What a terrific audience! They're so there with you."
You know, the other magic thing about, if we were doing a week of this, different audiences every day, it would not be the same experience for you, the audience, or for us.
Yeah.
And that's what makes film, stage so exciting. Stage being, yes, the laughter is wonderful. You guys were, very appreciative. And we're appreciative of your having found the humor in this play. But there's also magic in silence. Silence is never the same every night. It's a texture, and silences can be even more exciting than laughter from an actor's point of view.
But also, I want to thank you. I know there's some donors out there who are very important to the Articulate Theater, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I just want you to know I'm lucky enough that I've made my living in theater, but I've done so many shows now off Broadway and off Broadway. Keir did a show at the Keene Theater. I stepped in at the Keene Theater because I guess for a while there I had the reputation of I could learn something in 3 days. So somebody got a job and they knew they were going to be missing 5 performances in 3 days. Well, actually that one was only in 2 days. But could you step in? Okay, and I think all of the young people in that show, and it was a good New York show, they all had day jobs, because as an actor you are not getting a living wage off Broadway. You're just not. You can't afford to. And so fabulous actors, and just and a beautiful actress that I know who's done wonderful stuff, and continues to work. But in between, she's now become a real estate agent. So I get emails from her about apartments I could buy.
And shows to come to see her.
And shows to come to see, yes.
Right.
But the theater doesn't exist without donors. We don't have any government support, so...
Let's not even go there.
Well,
It's such a perfect night.
I won't talk about politics tonight. No. Okay.
no,
But anyway, I just want a big heartfelt thank you for the donors, and please continue to support Articulate in their mission, which is to do live theater and support new plays and playwrights and directors and actors.
Ditto.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Well, these two have given us the wonderful gift of their presence tonight, but we have a present of a gift to give to them. And to give that gift, we want to bring up someone who this night could not have happened without. Miss Joanne Dorian, who is one of their wonderful friends.
Thank you. I have to tell you that Joanne is one of Keir's shouldn't say that, oldest friends. No, I should. One of his friends who he has journeyed through life with the longest. How's that?
50 years.
Yes.
And she's also an articulate member.
Since she was a teenager.
She was, I had a boyhood friend who I remained friends with his whole life, because he passed away some years ago. But he was one of my closest buddies. In fact, when he was younger than I was, about 6 or 7 years younger. I used to babysit for him because his parents were friends of mine. And I went out to Los Angeles. I'd never been to Los Angeles. It was my first film. It was a film with Don Murray called The Hoodlum Priest. And I was 24 years old, and I looked up my old friend, Michael. And he had this girlfriend that is his girlfriend. They were seniors. They were graduating. They had just graduated high school together, and that was Joanne and my friend. So that's how long I've known Joanne.
And I have to say, Joanne is our connection to Articulate. She was appearing in one of their productions. We went to see her. She was fabulous.
Skin of Our Teeth.
Yes, she was Skin of Our Teeth, and did a fabulous performance in a fabulous production, and that's why we were open to lending our support to this wonderful theater company.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you.